And so, just like that, Mob Psycho 100 ends with episode 12. I'm sad. I'm pretty sad to say that this is my finale review of the series, and it's done for a while, because it was quite the ride. This was definitely an eye-opener to anime, especially when it comes to one's writing. I mean, I remember walking in this series and starting it and thinking, like, you know, there's no way this is going to be to that level of One Punch Man. I've heard a lot of good things about Mob Psycho, but I've always loved One Punch Man, and I've never actually started Mob Psycho. But now, after finishing the series of Mob Psycho, finishing all 12 episodes and all that, I generally want to say, I think I enjoy Mob Psycho in terms of the characters and story more than One Punch Man. I gotta say, after completing this final episode, because Mob's development, Reigen's development, Ritsu's development, the side characters' development, I mean, all these characters' development, it's just something I really like seeing. And this episode encompassed what I really love about Mob Psycho 100. And I'm really sad to see this series go because of how much I have truly enjoyed this series, watching it every single Monday, and knowing now that it's over, it's completely done, and there's not going to be any continuation for a while. I want to bet since it's kind of popular, we will eventually get a Season 2, but at this time, no, most likely it's going to be a while until we finally get one. But let's talk about Reigen, though, okay? Reigen as a character completely surprised me. He surpassed my expectations as a character throughout the journey of this series. When the series first started, Reigen seemed like a character that was an ass. He was, you know, someone that was a scumbag, someone that was using Mob, which, in a way, he's still using Mob. But overall, his character, the way he's been, you know, gotten his character development and characterization, he's developed in a way that's very positive. You see that a character like Reigen in this series, he's not a negative influence on Mob. He's actually helped him the entire time, being a positive influence and shaping the person he is today and why he doesn't want to harm others. And this, I really appreciate with the way one wrote Reigen's character throughout Mob Psycho 100, because one of the big things that stood out to me when I was watching this episode was that Reigen, even though he got this power, he was able to destroy all these espers like it was nothing, with the flick of his finger, just pushing everything aside like it was nothing. He did not let the power get to his head. And that is the biggest thing I noticed about the entirety first half of this episode, which I feel like many might not have noticed, but let's just dive straight into that. Majority of characters, especially characters that are weak, for instance, someone like Reigen, okay? Reigen, he has every skill set besides being a psychic, an esper, someone that can actually do his job properly. But when it comes to everything else, with him negotiating, making deals, all sorts of other stuff on the scenes, life advice, this man is very good at it. And when this man finally gets power, he finally actually gets able to use psychic abilities, he doesn't let it get to his head. He doesn't let it overcome his entire being, and he's like, oh, I'm now all powerful, I'll kick everybody's ass and all that, I'm the ultimate being. He didn't think like that, and majority of characters in, you know, Reigen's, like, type of trope, they usually would let the power consume them, and they would completely, you know, get a big head over it. For instance, let's just, you know, throw Hercule in there, okay? Let's just, you know, throw Hercule into the mix. If Hercule from Dragon Ball was to get the power of Reigen and be that powerful like, you know, Reigen was in this episode, it would get to his head and you'd feel like he's, like, the strongest person alive, or whatever. And I really appreciate the fact that Reigen didn't let the power get to his head, and he remained true to himself. He remained true to his advice he gave Mob all the time. He didn't kind of become a hypocrite. And that, I appreciate that. I really appreciate how Reigen was able to retain what he truly stands for, and he didn't break his own rules, what he constantly told Mob. For instance, like, you're just a commoner, you're someone that is not special. Even though you have psychic abilities, you're all powerful, this doesn't mean you're special. This doesn't mean that you should be worshipped, doesn't mean that you should be praised and should be popular. And I really appreciate how Reigen took his own advice, and he used it to be able to convince everybody he was fighting in this episode that they're not anything special. They're still commoners as well. And that right there made a very good impression on me. If I didn't like Reigen's character, like, let's just say on the off chance I disliked Reigen's character, after this episode, I couldn't deny how good of a character he was, and how good of a positive influence he has been on Mob the entirety of his entire life, just for what he did in this episode, and how Mob was able to go into appreciation mode instead of being in hatred mode because of how epic his teacher was and what he was doing for him and what he stood for. It made me very, very happy to see. So let's talk about the overall fight in general. I am actually surprised Mob Psycho, with its finale, it ended the episode like it did. It really surprised me that there wasn't a whole lot of action like I expected, because, you know, with the ending of last week's episode, since we were diving into the finale of Mob Psycho 100, I thought it was going to be an entire fight episode. Like, the entirety of the episode was pretty much going to be fighting, and then the final part of the episode was, like, going to be like a farewell, characters talking, and then going on with their normal lives. That's what I thought was going to happen. But that did not happen, which is completely opposite to what happened in One Punch Man episode 12, because if you think about it, One Punch Man episode 11 ended off in not the exact same note, but in a similar fashion where it hyped up this epic fight in the last episode. You remember with Boros and Saitama. And with last week's episode of Mob Psycho, it hyped up this fight with Mob versus Claw, and how they've been, you know, just causing terror around the entire world. They want world domination. Mob is pissed off. We thought that fight was about to go down. And then the episode starts off on a completely, entirely different note, and Reigen gets the spotlight, and it was mainly just him talking, trying to show how little they are in the world in the grand scheme of things. And it's a completely different tone to what I expected. And I feel like that worked out so much better, because at the end of the day, Mob Psycho, even though there's action in the series, like there is a lot of action, it's not an action-based series. It isn't. I mean, if you really think about it, Mob Psycho is not an action-based series. It is actually mainly about the characters, what lives they live, and how they can develop and grow from the situations they are in. And so, I can kind of understand what this episode is trying to do. It's trying to give a moral message instead of just focusing on fighting, which overall, at the end of the day, I appreciate that more than a good action scene. I appreciate character development, characterization, and this really well thought out dialogue from the characters. I like that over action any day. So, good job, Mob Psycho. Very good job, Mob Psycho, for meeting my expectations, surpassing my expectations, and giving me some very good characters, and also letting me see why so many really praise this series, and why so many readers of the original source love Mob Psycho over One Punch Man. Now I truly understand after finishing this said anime series. Now, overall, my impressions of Mob Psycho 100, it's very positive. I am completely happy with what I got with this series, because I was anime only the entire journey. I was anime only, not knowing what to expect. I just know One is a very good writer, and it just impressed me with how One was able to write two good series. Not just One Punch Man, but also Mob Psycho 2. It's also a rare feat to be able to accomplish something like this, writing two series at the same time that are just very popular and have very good writing. That's a very rare thing to do, and so well done, One, for writing a glorious series. Well done, One, for getting another anime series that was very successful, in my opinion. And the art style definitely complemented the entirety of this anime. If it wasn't for the art style and animation, I don't think I would have enjoyed Mob Psycho 100 as much as I did. Now, granted, I do like, you know, good plot and stuff. I'm just saying the art and the animation, it was just so perfect for this. And it saddens me that many, when starting this series, dropped Mob Psycho 100 because of the art and animation, which kind of disgusts me a little bit, because the art is just a design choice. It fits the theme of Mob Psycho in One's art style, and the animation was not bad at all. Like, holy shit, look at this week's episode of Mob Psycho, and you'll see how great the animation was. So I'm really, I guess, I'm different when it comes to, like, everybody else probably saying that this animation art was bad. I personally liked it, and I really had no problems with it. Now, of course, art and all that, you know, your taste in art's subjective, but still, I feel like it was fine. I truly feel like it was fine, and even the music was very good, too. So, that's my final thoughts. I mean, it's kind of sad that, you know, I gotta say farewell to Mob Psycho 100, but all good things, as always, must come to an end. Now, I know many of you are going to be asking about, like, am I going to start the, you know, manga of Mob Psycho 100? And at this time, since, you know, this is going to be backlog season, since, you know, fall, I'm mainly going to be focusing on majority of backlog, so stuff I need to get back into and start reviewing, I'm not, no promises, FYI, no promises. Just getting that out there. But I will see if I have time this backlog season, because I want to put everything else in front. I've already promised. If I have time, I will see if I can maybe do a review on the manga or something of Mob Psycho 100. See if I can catch up or maybe do chapter reviews or something like that. I'll figure something out. But I do want to read it. I do want to continue with Mob Psycho. I did like the entirety of the story. But I want to give it maybe a week or so, see if there's like any season 2 announcement trailer, because usually when it comes to, you know, like series like this, you gotta wait maybe a day at max, 2 days, or maybe even a week just to see if there's a season 2. And so I'm just gonna see if there's a season 2 announcement, and if there isn't one, I'll probably dive into the manga to see, because I mean, look, One Punch Man recently just got an announcement. I mean, I know 2 different studios, but One Punch Man got an announcement. Since Mob Psycho is very popular as well, I sense one day it's probably going to get a season 2 announced as well. I'm just curious exactly when will that happen. So that's about it. You all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. I mean, how do you all feel about everything that happened in this series? How do you feel about the entire journey? How do you feel about, you know, Reigen awakening his psychic abilities where you can see Dimple now? I mean, how do you feel about everything? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.